Attention timeshare owners. This is an urgent consumer alert from the Timeshare Exit Hotline, a national company specializing in helping consumers legally get out of their expensive timeshare contracts. We're offering you a way to legally get rid of your timeshare. So if you're fed up with the maintenance fees that keep on coming and want to learn if you can terminate your timeshare legally and permanently, call today. Even if you've tried before and were unsuccessful in getting rid of your timeshare, call today and see if we can help. We offer a complete 100% unconditional client satisfaction guarantee. Make this completely free call and learn how we can help you legally put an end to your timeshare nightmare once and for all. You have nothing to lose, so call right now to qualify and receive a free consultation. You can terminate your timeshare legally and permanently, but you've got to call now. Call the number on your screen today. It's a free call.
Ah, ho, ho, ho.
Hey, what's wrong, Santa?
Well, it's these elves. The new ones all feel entitled. They don't want to work their way up the ladder. In fact, they hardly want to work at all. Then there's those social justice elves. They keep pointing out everyone's differences, dividing the elves and getting them all riled up. And don't get me started about the reindeer rights elves. The shop floor just isn't the happy little place it used to be.
We should have used Red Balloon.
That's right, Santa. RedBalloon.work is America's woke-free job board. Every day, we help good companies find reliable, motivated job seekers without all the woke nonsense. And our new Red Balloon recruiter service is turning traditional corporate recruiting on its head, delivering high-quality employees for a fraction of the price. Give yourself a Christmas gift and post your jobs on RedBalloon.work today. And use promo code CHRISTMAS to get 10% off your first month's job postings, because life's too short for a bad hire.
And welcome to the Schaftlein Report. This is not Mark Schaftlein. This is Drew Allen, his guest host for today. Honored to be here again with all of you. So we got a lot to get into. You can see I got a stack of stuff here going to the moon. I do want to address what's happening, what just happened with the Colorado Supreme Court. Absurd, outrageous. But the question is, why do they do it? We're seeing acknowledgement from everyone that, even liberals, by the way, they're all admitting this is absurd and that the Supreme Court ultimately is going to shoot this down. So why did they go forward with this, right? So I want to dig a little bit deeper than that. But first, did you hear about Egypt? By the way, I don't know if you saw this, but apparently, I'm beginning to think that the Democrats and rhinos are a bunch of liars when they tell us that walls and barriers don't work. Because Egypt has just completed a wall to keep the Palestinians out. And now I have not heard any Democrats, I have not heard Joe Biden say, hey, this is a big waste of money. These walls don't work. They don't keep anybody out, so we better not build them. Well, Egypt, they built an 8 to 10 foot concrete wall. They put a security fence with barbed wire in front of it. And then, of course, they put berms behind the concrete wall. So, it seems to me like apparently these walls actually do work. And if you're looking at what's happening at our southern border, of course, it would be a nice thing to have right now. And in fact, if these walls didn't work, it's very strange because the Biden administration, of course, has gone to war with Texas in particular because Texas has been trying to secure its own border, putting up barriers. And you have the Biden administration, of course, sending in feds to cut the barbed wire, to eliminate those barriers, to let people in. Boy, the American people have been swindled by this Democrat Party and these lies about immigration. But there's one word for what's going on. You hear a lot of word about an insurrection right now to relate this to what's going on in Colorado, of course, and everything else. But the word here is treason. And that is a serious word. And that is what the Biden administration, Biden himself, Mayorkas, all of them are actually guilty of. What's happening at the border? We're seeing, of course, an influx. It continues to get worse. It's now 10 to 12,000 a day. This is not sustainable. And of course, the point of this is to destroy America, to destroy our sovereignty. So, don't let them fool you either. Oh, we can't control this. Of course they can control it, but they have told us that they don't want to control it. And we're going to get into that in a minute. As a matter of fact, Drake, cue up cut 7. This is all going to play in. We're going to get into what the Democrats did, of course, to win 2020. They did steal the election, absolutely 100%. I've got an article here to remind you from Time Magazine, written by Molly Ball, in which she laid it out and told us how they planned and how they did it and how they pulled it off. But do not be mistaken. There is an immediate purpose and reason behind the Democrat Biden strategy right now to bring in over 10 million illegals. And you better believe it has something to do with the 2024 presidential election. You better believe that this is about reinforcing votes. The Democrats know. They know that they didn't win 2020 fair and square. All right? And they know they can't beat Trump in 2024. Now, I'm not telling you to sit back, oh, it's over. Trump's a guaranteed shoo-in. No. The Democrats can't win without cheating right now. If you look at the economy and what's going on, I know there's a lot of propaganda out there, but Democrats believe and they fear Donald Trump. They're not pursuing him and doing this because they want to face him. That's a bunch of garbage. I'll dismiss that in a minute. They're doing this because they don't want to face Donald Trump, because they don't believe they can beat him, because they know they didn't beat him fair and square in 2020. And so I want you to listen to this clip, and we're starting to pick up the clues. Pay attention to what's going on going forward with this illegal immigration stuff. Play cut 7.
Where are you from?
Guinea Conakry.
Where?
Guinea Conakry.
Guinea, okay. And where in the U.S. do you want to go to?
Philadelphia.
Philadelphia. Why Philadelphia?
I have paper. I don't know the place. Let me check the place. I want to check the place.
Okay, so just an address in Philadelphia to go to? Okay.
Does someone want to dig here? This is a coordinated invasion. Who gave this person from Guinea an address? And why is it in Philadelphia? Now remember, the big problem for Democrats are these so-called swing states, which includes Pennsylvania, which Donald Trump won in 2016. And in 2020, he lost because, of course, the Democrats used Philadelphia, mail-in ballots, the big cities they control, to change the election results. And you have this person that just hasn't. Who gave him this address? Do you understand? I mean, obviously, these are the questions that a journalist would be asking. So you've got illegals at the border, and they've all just got a bunch of handwritten addresses. And we know they're getting put on flights by both Delta and American. Have you seen this stuff too, by the way? I mean, it's unbelievable right now. Part of me is a little bit irritated because it's been reported for a long time now. Like, this isn't new that the Biden administration has been coordinating and paying for with our money, right? They're using taxpayer dollars to coordinate and facilitate the illegal invasion of our country. Now, these people aren't staying in Texas. They're being flown on commercial flights to places like Philadelphia, where they can be dropped off and picked up and taken to whatever this community center, where Democrats are going to make sure they probably go through, okay, here's how you're going to vote in 2024, et cetera, et cetera. So there is something going on behind this. And one of my questions throughout this is, where are these people going? Right? They're not staying at the border. They're being flown. Where strategically are they being do we have reports on that? Now, we know that Abbott and others have brilliantly, I mean, it's depressing that it has to happen to begin with, but brilliantly, they've been flying and sending on buses these migrants to these so-called sanctuary cities, and Democrats are having a cow. Oh, we can't sustain this in D.C. We can't sustain this in New York City. How dare you send these illegals here? So anyway, my point is there's more to this illegal invasion. It's not just, and it is about this too. It is about demographic change, if you will. It's about replacing American voters. We talked about this 2 weeks ago, last time I hosted for Mark. But that should be very disturbing to everyone. Illegals are given addresses to certain locations and being taken there. Why? All right. Now I want to point something else out. Democrats, how do I want to say this? Democrats, sometimes we give them too much credit. Now, they are smarter than Republicans, more committed to victory than Republicans. The Republican Party is a disaster. More on that in a minute, maybe. But Democrats aren't smart, but Republicans aren't either. And my point is, and I want you to cue up cut 5, Drake. So much of the Democrats' success is really dependent upon Republican stupidity. It's not that Democrats are so smart. It's that Republicans are so stupid. Now, go. So this is a clip from CNN. I just want to play this for you because what the Democrats have done with this lawfare, if you will, with this persecution of Trump, it is backfiring on them. It's backfiring, and I got a couple Washington Post, believe it or not, stories to back this up. Sane Democrats are scratching their heads after the Colorado Supreme Court decision and saying, "Wait a minute, this is not actually a good idea. This is a really bad idea." But go ahead and play. This is the Democrats, CNN anchors being shocked that Trump's approval and support is actually going up. They cannot believe this. Play the cut.
The jujitsu by which Donald Trump is able to take bad news and somehow make it positive with fundraising and polling is something I don't think I've seen before in U.S. history.
It's remarkable. I mean, with any other candidate, 91 felony charges would put you in a box that you wouldn't be able to get out of. With Donald Trump, it helps him.
Now, listen very carefully. The Democrats have always miscalculated Trump. They've never even tried to understand why he's popular. They've never understood his base. They've never understood the love and admiration for him from Americans throughout this country. And they still don't get it. They do not understand it. Here they can't comprehend that despite nearly a decade now of unjust persecution, from Trump-Russia collusion, the coup attempt, to the quid pro quo coup, to the insurrection lie, that Trump's popularity soars. It's imperative. You must remember actual history and facts, not this revisionist crap that the Democrats are talking about, because they're trying to revise history every single day to change your perception. It's reality versus perception. And they want you to believe that Trump can't win. They want you to believe that Trump is not popular. They don't want you to feel proud. They don't want you to support him. And yet, in 2020, Trump got nearly 10 million more votes than he did in 2016. Barack Obama, in contrast, got fewer votes when he ran for re-election in 2012. So his popularity actually nosedived. Trump's increased. And if it wasn't for the mail-in ballots and this coordinated effort in 2020 in which they used COVID as a justification to fundamentally alter and put forward this strategy to steal the election, Trump would be president. He absolutely would. But there they are in that clip. They cannot comprehend it. What? You mean this is helping? So what should our response be? Our response on our side should be to support Donald Trump unequivocally, because we have somebody who can win. And yet what do we have? We have this fake primary going on in which DeSantis has, and I really am sorry, but DeSantis has really taken certain conservatives for a ride. He never had a chance to win the nomination. He never had a chance, because what's the biggest plurality of voters, supporters in the Republican Party? It's MAGA. And MAGA was not loyal to DeSantis. And this was a huge miscalculation that he made. And I'm trying to get people to understand this. And this isn't even about, I was a supporter of DeSantis when he of course, was governor, 2021 into 2022, when he finally made the shift and became a champion of opposing lockdowns and kind of the face of freedom. But what he's done and the decisions he's made are incomprehensible to me. I mean, he's surrounded by Z-listers. I say this as somebody who's a publicist to A-listers. I know how this world works. He is surrounded by the dumbest advisors and the most ignorant people on planet Earth. And they're really destroying his political ambitions and future. But what he's done is managed to turn Trump into scapegoat. There are people in the Republican Party that justifiably are outraged after what Fauci did, after everything about the economy. I mean, it's depressing out there. And so we have somebody that we can back and support. It's Trump. But instead, DeSantis has managed to turn Trump into the scapegoat. So he will lie to his supporters and tell them that, he'll try to make this differentiation that's not based on history, that, Trump's the lockdown king and DeSantis opposed it. DeSantis supported Trump all the way up to his, into October of 2020. And he was a big supporter, going out and giving speeches. And it wasn't until 2021, long after Trump was out of office, actually, that DeSantis finally became the king of freedom. DeSantis is vaccinated. And we'll get back more into this. I do want to cover this because I want to address the DeSantis stuff. It bothers me because I'm a pragmatic guy. But first, a word from our sponsor, Red Balloon.
When I grow up, I want to work for a woke company, like super woke.
When I grow up,
I want to be hired based on what I look like.
I want to be judged
by my political beliefs.
I want to be a conformist.
When I grow up, I want to be offended
by my coworkers and walk around the office on eggshells. When I grow up, I want to weaponize my pronouns. What are pronouns?
It's time to grow up and get back to work. Introducing the #1 woke-free job board, redballoon.work.
We are here to defend democracy for the people.
Look, I don't have a problem with somebody who supports DeSantis. What I do have a problem with is the lies, right? I can't stand it. DeSantis is vaccinated, all right? DeSantis told Floridians to get the vaccine because basically they had a 100% chance of survival if they got it. Now, he did change his position, and he did get to the right position that many people on our side care about. But the point is, he didn't, even while Trump was in office. He had the same positions Trump did. He did lock down Florida. He didn't reopen completely until September or October of 2020. Good for him. But Trump was encouraging the same thing, telling states to reopen. And so for him to come out and say, oh, yeah, I would have fired Fauci. Really? When you had Trump's ear, did you tell him he should fire Fauci? Because early in the pandemic, of course, you praised Fauci. You deferred to him for his guidance. So at what point did you become this new DeSantis? I'm sick of it. I'm sick of it. I'm sick of it. And honestly, if you love this country, if you love America and you're patriotic and you care, it is actually incumbent upon you at this point to support Trump. It just is. Everybody gets the stakes. You've even got RFK Jr. coming out and saying, this is unbelievable what they're doing right now. This is a bridge too far. And that's, I mean, think about this. You have RFK Jr., who's a Democrat, and he is a far left Democrat. People like his positions on, the vaccines or a couple other things, freedom of speech. But that's it. Apart from that, he's a big climate change guy. I mean, he checks the boxes of the Marxists apart from those things, okay? But there are things to like. There are things that are appealing about RFK Jr. But think about the fact that RFK Jr. has come out and had a stronger opinion and he has spoken out in support of Trump in ways that DeSantis has not done. And that's because, I'm sorry, this is the hard truth. DeSantis is selfish. He covets a higher office than he currently holds. And rather than actually spending his time and devoting himself 100% to doing his current job, he's neglecting it and devoting himself to running for an office that he's not even going to have, that he's not going to win. The votes aren't there. All right, so let's get into this. What happened in Colorado? I got to fly here. There's too many things to say, too much brilliance to speak, and not enough time ever. So, I'm astonished here because you actually have, I'm going to my stack of stuff here. You have the Washington Post, right? And two articles that are coming out and saying this is ridiculous. This is a stupid move by the Colorado Supreme Court. Now, first things first, a guy named Jim Garotti, he writes, the Colorado Supreme Court just proved Trump's point. This is in the Washington Post. This is a leftist, a Democrat. Well, he says, I have a hard time believing. So actually, I have to preface this way. Jack Smith and all these four indictments, right? All the persecution of Trump, the lawfare, none of these indictments are related to an insurrection. right? That's not one of the charges that Jack Smith has even made. So this writer, this Democrat, says, I have a hard time believing it is because Jack Smith or any other prosecutor forgot or overlooked the possibility of this charge. Smith seems like a smart guy. His words, not mine. Seems like a scumbag, Rasputin to me. So the most reasonable conclusion is that Smith either doesn't believe that the evidence exists to convict Trump on that charge, or that he and his team are unlikely to persuade a jury to convict Trump on that charge. You don't get to kick a guy off the ballot because you think has committed a crime but can't prove it. If that's going to be the new standard going forward, we should expect state Supreme Courts in red states to kick President Biden off the ballot. Now, I want to be clear. What happened in Colorado? First, you had a lower court. They made a decision that they couldn't do this, right? But that court shouldn't be praised too much because that court actually ruled that it was constitutional. Actually, let me let the Democrats speak for me. So, hold on, diddly deet. Do this first, actually. Cue up cuts. I want you to hear it from a couple of surprising supporters of Trump here. Bill Barr and then Jonathan Turley, who's a great legal mind. Here's Bill Barr's problem with what the Colorado Supreme Court did, ruling that they could take Trump off the primary ballot because he's an insurrectionist based on a Civil War era amendment. Go ahead and play cut one.
The core problem here is the denial of due process. To deprive somebody of the right to hold public office requires due process. It was a 5-day hearing. There was no jury. It was before the judge. They were not able to subpoena witnesses and compel the attendance of witnesses. They relied on the hearings, the January 6th committee hearings, which is mostly hearsay. There was no right to cross-examine during those hearings and so forth.
He's exactly right. There's no due process. Trump has not been found guilty of inciting insurrection. In fact, he was impeached over this and found not guilty. So this is insane. So he's actually been found not guilty in the only case that brought up him inciting insurrection, and they're just saying, nah, screw it. He's guilty of an insurrection. But the lower court said that Trump did incite an insurrection, but their argument was the verbiage of the amendment, the 14th Amendment, it didn't include the office of the presidency. So that was their ruling. And then you get to the Colorado Supreme Court, and they say, no. It not only includes the presidency, but he did incite an insurrection, so we're pulling him off the ballot. Now, look, there are two reasons this is going nowhere. One is the Republican Party can affect this themselves because we're talking about the primary. Obviously, if he's taken off the ballot for the primary, he can't be voted for in the general election. You understand that? But this is about the primary. Well, the Republicans can just go to a caucus system. And so you don't have actually it being run by and the candidate for the Republican Party being chosen in a state-run primary that's run by the government. They can do a caucus system. That's the difference. A caucus, you have the Republican Party controlling it. It has nothing to do with the state. It has nothing to do with the government, if you will. It's a system that's controlled by the political party. So they could do that as well. So the question is, why would they do this knowing that this is going to be overturned? And even the Colorado Supreme Court basically made room to keep him on there. He's not off the ballot right now. They made room to say, okay, well, we know you're going to challenge this. We'll give you until this date. And so what they're doing here, one is a spaghetti strategy. They're throwing things against the wall to see what'll stick. But also pay attention to how they talk about the Supreme Court. Because what the Democrats have done is they have attacked the legitimacy of the Supreme Court. Now, they are now forcing, and this is reality versus perception, what the Democrats are doing with these cases, they are basically forcing the Supreme Court to decide the 2024 election in certain ways, right? So the Democrats are interfering in the 2024 election. I think that's clear. That's what's going on with the lawfare and everything else. That's the reality. They are. But what's the narrative going to be? Because now you've got 3 cases that are probably going for the Supreme Court, and all of them have to do with determining Trump's fate in the 2024 election. So the narrative from the left is going to be, you see these conservative justices, they're in the tank for Trump. They're interfering in the 2024 election. They are spinning this. This is what they're doing. And my fear is not what's going on right now in Colorado, but it's if the Democrats use this, like I think they're going to do, to attack the legitimacy of the Supreme Court rulings in favor of Trump, which will be the correct ones, what's to stop Colorado and other states around this country, Democrats, if they defy the Supreme Court ruling? Is that not the next leap and step? What if Democrats just say, screw it, the Supreme Court's illegitimate, we're going to take them off the ballot? This is the constitutional crisis I fear. What happens when they defy the highest court in the land? You think the Democrats are beyond this? You think the Democrats won't go down that route? You think the Democrats are going to accept Donald Trump if he wins in 2024? I got to get to this quick here. Pull up photo one. I want you to see this article. So, the secret history of the shadow campaign that saved the 2020 election. This is the infamous article in Time magazine written by Molly Ball. They went out and admitted that the Democrats stole the 2020 election. And I got a few things. The first thing is what they did. You can pull it down. They conditioned us for the steal. And she writes in this article, their work, this is this cabal, she calls it. Actually, let's see here. Well, I got like 8 pages of this stuff. Let me just share this with you. Their work touched every aspect of the election. This is the cabal. They got states to change voting systems and laws and helped secure hundreds of millions in public and private funding. They fended off voter suppression lawsuits. Voter suppression, when the Democrats say that, that's about legal votes, right? They call voter suppression anything that shores up and prevents illegals and illegal conduct from voting. But, this is how they play with the language. So they recruited armies of poll workers and got millions of people to vote by mail for the first time. They successfully pressured social media companies to take a harder line against disinformation, use data-driven strategies to fight viral smears. I mean, on and on and on. They had this whole thing laid out. This is the inside story of the conspiracy to save the 2020 election. Save, right? They're saving democracy by instituting tyranny. Here's another one. You have to remember, too, that in 2020, they actually had an army ready to go out and protest violently in the streets if they needed to use that as, if the Republicans had actually had backbones and the courts had actually taken up these cases. So we wanted to be mindful of when was the right time to call for moving masses of people into the street, one of these people involved says. As much as they were eager to mount a show of strength, mobilizing immediately could backfire and put people at risk. Protests that devolved into violent clashes would give Trump a pretext to send in feral agents, etc. So the word went out. So the Democrats told their minions, stand down, protect the results, announced that it would not be activating the entire national mobilization network. So they're admitting they had Antifa, BLM ready to take to the streets if it was needed, but they didn't have to because the Democrats caved. So I just want you to know, I mean, they admit in this article, I don't have time to get into the whole thing, but go and find this article and read it. But here's your Democrats, by the way. Cue up cut 3. Here's the narrative, and this is how stupid the sick people on the left are. Play cut 3 here.
To the Republican candidate's argument that this should be, the voters should have the say and not the courts.
Why are you standing with Confederates who betrayed this country? And this is what they're standing with, is the spirit of those Confederates rather than the Americans who came together after a long and brutal civil war that was fought to keep the Union together, and clearly saw a threat in ex-Confederates running for office, so much so that they amended the Constitution.
Well, there you go. Anyway, my point is, as somebody who goes on TV a lot, that's humiliating. I would be embarrassed to ever show my face again, but that's New York Times. I mean, unbelievably. I mean, that's like the script she gave herself to read, and it makes no sense whatsoever. There was no insurrection or anything else. The insurrection's happening right now at the border by the Democrat Party, and they are fearful of Trump. So again, I would tell you, the strategic, pragmatic decision that is good for the country is for everyone to support Trump because this is bigger than him. That would be my advice. That's the right thing to do. And we can beat Biden or whatever Democrat they throw at us in 2024. All right, with that, I bid you adieu. This is Drew Allen in for Mark Schaftlein of the Schaftlein Report.